Have you found yourself struggling with sleep and finding a pattern? You sleep well for 2 nights, then you have one night that is really choppy, and then you sleep 2 nights again, and this repeats itself. Or you sleep poorly for 2 nights, then have one easy night, and then have choppy sleep 2 nights again, and this repeats itself. Has this happened to you? And have you wondered, why is this happening to me? And how do I leave this pattern behind and have regularly easy sleep? If so, you have just clicked on the very video on the World Wide Web, which will explain why this happens, what maintains this pattern, and how to leave the pattern so you can find yourself where you want to be, which is a place of peaceful nights and peace of mind. Welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep physician turned sleep coach and online educator. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you find your way here because I think this class here will really give you everything you need to leave this pattern behind. Now, I call this, on the thumbnail, I put the 2-1-2 sleep pattern. But actually, there are many, many patterns that are very, very common during our insomnia struggle, but also as we leave the struggle, as we're learning everything that leads to where we want to be during the recovery journey, if you will, patterns are also very, very common. And these can be all kinds of patterns. They can be this like 2 easy nights, 2 choppy nights, 3 choppy nights, 1 easy night, 3 easy nights, 1 choppy night. There are all kinds of patterns. There can be even more complex patterns like 3 easy nights, 1 choppy night, 2 easy nights. I've heard all kinds of patterns described. The most common, however, I think actually by far the most common pattern is what we call the pendulum pattern, where it's like 1 easy night, 1 choppy night, 1 easy night, 1 choppy night. And if you want to learn more about this particular pattern, the pendulum pattern, then just search the pendulum pattern here on YouTube, and you'll find this particular video on that. But it's very similar to this one, though. The content is very similar. But here we talk about other patterns and patterns in general. And what we want to cover here is how patterns emerge, what maintains the patterns, and how sleep becomes regular again. So let's start at the very top with number one. How does a pattern like the ones we've talked about emerge? Well, it really happens as we've had the struggle with sleep. We don't maybe have full understanding. We don't know what's going on, but we notice that we have actually had 2 choppy nights followed by 1 night of easy sleep. And this has happened kind of randomly. With random, I don't mean to say that there's like this X factor that we don't know about. The reality is that the choppy nights happened because we were more concerned, we worried more, we were trying more to sleep, we were exerting more effort. And then for some reason, the third night, we just kind of surrendered, or we were distracted. For some reason, we were not as concerned. We put in less effort, and we slept easily. But this kind of just happened, but we take note of it. We're like, wait a minute. I had 2 nights where I slept, not well, and then I had 1 easy night. And we're kind of like pondering this, like, 2 and then 1. And then we sort of predict that maybe this will happen again. And we predict that we'll have 2 choppy nights. And that makes us concerned. We're like, oh, this is going to be the choppy night. Is it going to repeat itself? Is it going to be just like the other one? Is it going to be like this? And now we're back with concern. We may be like trying to prevent this from happening. And then we have 2 choppy nights. But then we go like, okay, well, I've had those 2 choppy nights. This is going to be the easy night. And then we're like, okay, that's fine. At least I'm going to get some relief today, some rest today. And then we're not putting in effort. We're not concerned. And we have an easy night. And just like that, we have sort of proven to ourselves that there is a pattern. Now we're like, okay, it was 2 choppy nights, then 1 easy night, then followed by 2 choppy nights, easy night. Yep, this is the pattern. I have a pattern. Something odd is going on. And now you can see that the pattern can repeat itself, which leads us to, we've seen how the pattern emerges. It's kind of like we randomly have something happen and we think of it as a pattern, and then it repeats itself. And then you can wonder, like, so Daniel, why are we even talking about what maintains the pattern? We already talked about that, but hold on for a second. There's actually more to what maintains the pattern than what meets the eye. It is not simply this like self-fulfilling prophecy. Simply predicting that we're going to have this pattern does not lead to this pattern. And we'll see why in a second. But again, predicting, for example, a choppy night, just thinking tonight's going to be a choppy night, it does not in itself automatically lead to a choppy night. No, what leads to a choppy night, and when I say use the word choppy, I mean a night where we sleep little, or it's like we're in and out of sleep, or we're fragmented sleep, or we wake up early and struggle falling back to sleep, something like that. That's what I call a choppy night. Now, for a choppy night to occur, we actually need the prediction of the choppy night and this chain reaction. And what I mean by chain reaction is that we think, oh no, this is going to be that night where I don't sleep very well. What can I do about it? How can I prevent it? Is it going to be true again? Is my prediction going to come true? What if it happens again? What if it doesn't happen? What, that kind of like chain reaction keeps us in this hyper-aroused, hyper-vigilant state of mind, and that leads to a choppy night of sleep. Similarly, we simply thinking, oh, I'm going to sleep well tonight doesn't lead to sleeping well in and of itself. Rather, it is predicting that I'll sleep well tonight, I'm going to have an easy night, and then not reacting to that, simply being like, that's going to be the easy night. Okay, nice. If we, on the other hand, predict that we're going to have an easy night, and we go like, oh, this is going to be an easy night, but what if it doesn't become that? What if this prediction is wrong? What if I what if I'm missing something? Then we can predict an easy night, but because of how we react to the prediction, it becomes a choppy night. And conversely, we can predict a choppy night, and we can be like, oh, tonight's going to be a choppy night, but I can't really do anything about it. It's going to be a choppy night, and we have kind of an acceptance attitude towards it, and there is no chain reaction. And we actually have an easy night after predicting a choppy night. And why am I kind of like stressing this so much? Well, it leads to one of our main teaching points here, and that is that for sleep to become regular again, what we want is not to stop the predictions. Like we cannot stop our brain from going like, tonight's going to be like this, or maybe tonight's going to be like that. That's just humanly impossible. We all have thoughts like that. But what is possible is that we see that we don't need to react any particular way to it. We don't need to take it that seriously. We don't need to think there's any validity to the prediction, and there isn't. It's just a random idea from the brain, like tonight's gonna be choppy, tonight's gonna be easy, and when we no longer have any like particular reaction to it, we just think that, okay, my brain predicted something, it can predict whatever it wants to, it doesn't mean anything, I don't need to change anything, there's no intervention required, then things get easier for us. And we're going to talk more about that in a second, but I just want to highlight this teaching point, because if we start thinking like, oh, I got to stop predicting, I got to stop thinking about these things, these thoughts cannot come up, then we're in a difficult place, because then we're in this other form of the inner struggle where we try to control our thoughts, which is not possible. And so again, patterns are only maintained when we have this like either chain reaction, no reaction scenario to these two types of predictions, meaning like when we predict a choppy night and we have a chain reaction to that, plus we predict an easy night and we don't react to that, that's the only way that the pattern is actually maintained, which leads us to see that these patterns are actually more fragile than they seem, because our thoughts often change, our reactions to the thoughts change, and sometimes that leads to a new pattern, and we go from like, oh, the pattern was this, no, it's that. But my point here is, again, that these patterns are actually quite fragile. If you're in this pattern, it can seem like it's very robust. It's been happening for an X amount of time, but they always change. These patterns they always change. And, that leads us nicely to our third topic, which is how sleep becomes regular. So we already touched upon how it's all these kind of prediction plus the reaction to prediction that maintains the pattern. And as our thoughts are, ever changing, the pattern is actually more fragile than it seems. And the pattern will change in one of two ways. One, I think it was kind of like the painful way the pattern changes, and one is the kind of light and easy way the pattern changes. So either what happens is that we have this like choppy night when we were supposed to sleep well. This is supposed to be our easy night of sleep, and we have a choppy night instead. That's the painful way we learn the lesson of like the changing of the patterns. The easy way is the opposite. It's like we have an easy night of sleep, we sleep well when we were supposed to have a choppy night, on our choppy night sleep, on our scheduled choppy night sleep. But and now when you hear this, we can see like, oh, if you're in this pattern, you of course will naturally, because you're human, you will think, I hope I have option B. Like I want option B. I want to see that I can sleep even when I had predicted this choppy night. And if that happens for you, that is wonderful. I wish for everyone that we will leave the struggle in the easiest, smoothest way. But remember, what you're learning here is for life. These are lifelong lessons. Like these are lessons about acceptance and self-kindness and letting go, which apply to every aspect of life. So even if your pattern changes in this kind of like painful way, remember it's just one night, it's just this one occurrence, you still learn from this in a way that helps with life in general, you know? And what exactly is that we want to learn, where I put down like the 2 key insights, I think, when it comes to these patterns. And A here is that the pattern does not harbor any clue. There's no information to be gathered. There's nothing there that gives you any guidance or direction in the pattern. There's nothing that requires analysis. And this is so, I really want to stress this, because when we think, okay, this pattern, okay, I've slept poorly yesterday. Why did that happen? What did I do right? What did I do wrong, rather? And what shouldn't I have done? What do I need to change so that doesn't happen again? That's very, very tricky, because it leads to effort. It leads to more trying. It leads to more preoccupation. It leads to more attention towards sleep, which keeps us from sleeping well, particularly in the long run. And because we can of course change something, and we can believe we fixed something, and then we can temporarily be like, oh, I changed something, it's working. But in the long run, we're still in this mindset of kind of like thinking something is wrong that we need to fix, right? Which does not help. Similarly, if we have an easy night of sleep and we think, what did I do right? Oh, I did this differently. That must be the clue. I need to repeat this tonight. That also leads in the same direction of kind of ongoing struggle with sleep. So key insight A here is there is no clue. There's nothing to be analyzed. There's nothing to be found. It's just, the pattern just happened for the reasons we already discussed. And secondly is that the pattern has no meaning or predictive value. If you find yourself in this pattern for X amount of time, it does not predict anything about how well you're going to sleep, or what your life is going to be like in the future. It has no predictive value whatsoever. I think we talked about how analyzing isn't helpful, but I think there's one thing that we can just like take note of, and it's just something we mentioned earlier in this class, actually, that the chopping out of sleep, it came from putting in effort in some shape or form, trying to sleep. Sleep became kind of this performance anxiety thing. We wanted to have it. We had the strong desire to sleep, and that therefore became choppy, right? The easy night came from us surrendering, not trying, not putting in effort, and that's all. And we don't need to like analyze any further than that. In this way, we can still learn from every night. Choppy night kind of just reinforces that, okay, this was choppy because I put in some effort. That's okay, but it's an invitation for less effort. Easy nights, that happened because I put in less effort. Nice, okay. And then each night just reinforces letting go, effortlessness, acceptance, which is so, so helpful. And when we arrive here, when we see that there's no mystery surrounding the pattern, we no longer analyze it, we don't predict. Now we're in a place where what kept the pattern going, which was the predicting, the reaction to the prediction, the analysis, the preoccupation with it, no longer exists. And the pattern no longer exists. And regular sleep, easy sleep, peaceful nights come your way. I hope this brought a ton of value to you. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now. Hi, it's me, Daniel, and I hope you took a ton of value from the video that you just watched. Now, I know that insomnia can be incredibly difficult to navigate, especially if you're a high achiever, a type A person who normally knows exactly how to get things done. This is why I've put together a free course called The Festival of Understanding, which I think is a perfect starting place for you to leave Insomnia Land. It not only has instruction from me, but it is a live event. So it has questions from the community as well, both which you can learn so much from. If you'd like to join, just head over to our website, thesleepcoachschool.com, and click the link at the very tippy top. And if you join, we'll meet again in the Festival of Understanding.